Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Yes, we have just invited you to this press conference so that we can update you on the preparations for the coming elections. In that regard, we are all aware that the law mandates the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission to conduct elections and referenda in Zimbabwe, among other electoral activities. And therefore, following the gazetting of the limitation report by His Excellency President E.G. Mnangagwa on the 20th of February this year, in February, the Commission embarked on peremptory electoral processes in preparation for this year's elections. I want to emphasize that these elections are conducted in terms of the new delimitation boundaries. You may be aware that the Commission embarked on a mobile voter registration exercise as part of the preparations for these elections. And one of the milestone activities conducted in preparation for these upcoming elections was the 15-day mobile voter registration exercise, which ran from 12 to 26 March 2023. Really, this was in an effort to make sure that as many eligible voters as possible were on the voters' roll so that they participate in the elections. If you may allow me to summarize that, the mobile voter registration centers were established, 4,474 of them. Then we deployed personnel, voter educators, and voter registration officers. In total, we had 16,455 of them. Our voter registration target for this blitz was 400,000. We are happy that we surpassed our target and we achieved a figure of 451,811. You will understand that our voter registration system is a continuous voter registration system. So when the Commission decides to go out, it's really extending a hand so that we reach as many people as possible. Then we also, after that, we had a voter inspection. A voter inspection, meaning voters were given the opportunity to inspect the voters' roll. Right, in a bid to ensure that the details of the registered voters are correctly captured, the Commission laid open the voters' roll for inspection from 27 May right up to the 1st of June 2023. You will understand that when the Commission lays out the voters' roll, it is giving the voters themselves, who are the owners of the voters' roll, to inspect their details, for us to effect corrections if there are any anomalies. In other words, we are subjecting the voters' roll to an audit by the owners of the voters' roll, who are the voters themselves and nobody else, because the voters' roll is for the voters. So in a way, you can say we subjected this voters' roll to an audit by the voters themselves. You want also to know that the exercise initially penciled to end on the 31st of May, but we will not shy away from the logistical problems that we had. Hence, we had to compensate for the first day, which did not go very well according to plan. We deployed somewhere and some areas remained. And because of that, in order not to disadvantage the voters, we extended by a day to achieve our set days. There have been questions what led to us extending, or the challenges. Challenges really, some of them are natural. You know, the rough terrains, you are aware of them. There are some areas that are very difficult to reach, and several of the roads were damaged, you know, during the past rain season. So because of that, we had to compensate for the lost time. If I were to summarize on the exercise of inspection, we had established 11,337 inspection centers across the country. And we are happy to say the turnout was good. We had people physically turning out to inspect the voters' roll. We had a number of 1,177,326. But let us also point out this, that many more people inspected the voters' roll using the platform that ZEC put to them for use, like the star 265 yes, which was created for subscribers on the Econet and Net1 mobile phone subscribers. As I said earlier on, the purpose of the inspection of the voters' roll is to give the voters themselves an opportunity to identify any anomalies so that the Commission can rectify. So indeed, during the inspection of the voters' roll, some anomalies were observed, and these anomalies were recorded in what we call VRR 1B form for remedial action. The electorate, we can assure the electorate that the Commission has rectified those anomalies that were identified by both the voters themselves and administratively by ourselves. So that was the purpose of that. Following the proclamation by the State President, His Excellency Idi Mnangagwa, setting 23 August 2023 as the harmonized election date, the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission would like to advise the electorate that the voters' roll for the elections, for this election, that is coming on the 23rd of August, closed on the 2nd of June. That is in accordance with the electoral law, particularly Section 26A of the Electoral Act. What it means that those who registered or who are registering post 2nd of June, they will not find their names in the voters' roll for this election. In other words, they will not vote in this election. However, you know that our voters' registration system is not periodic, it is continuous, so they will vote in the other coming elections. I think we needed to make that one very clear. It is now public knowledge, I believe, that the nomination court venues were set in terms of the proclamation, and for the presidential election, the nomination court venue will be the High Court here in Harare, Court A, Mapondera Building, while venues for the aspiring members of the National Assembly constituencies will be at the provincial magistrate courts countrywide. And for the councillors, these will take place at the respective boardrooms of the chief executive officers of those local authorities. We want to advise that the nomination courts, as per the proclamation, will commence at 1000 hours and close at 1600 hours tomorrow, 21 June 2023. Ladies and gentlemen, this is in terms of the electoral law, section 46, subsection 7 of the Electoral Act. And that states that no nomination paper shall be received by any nomination officer after 4 o'clock, afternoon of the nomination day. But we want also to make this clear that those who are submitting the papers, if they are already in the nomination court by 4 o'clock, the process will accept them and process their papers to the finish. We want also to advise that prospective candidates have been filing their forms with the ZEC offices, and these forms are available at our ZEC offices throughout the country and on the ZEC's website, which I'm sure you now are familiar with, www.zec.org.zw. For the presidential aspirants, there must be 10 registered voters in each of the country's 10 provinces to nominate for anyone who aspires to contest in the presidential election. And for the National Assembly constituencies, each candidate must be nominated by 5 nominators who are registered in the constituency in which a particular individual wants to stand. It also goes with those who intend to contest as councillors. They must be nominated by 5 registered voters in their respective wards. Let me just emphasize here that we want to advise the aspiring candidates, particularly those who are aspiring to be councillors, that they must make sure that they are registered in the wards they want to contest. Just like their nominators, they must be registered in the wards they want to contest. So in other words, we are saying they must also make sure that they are registered in the wards they want to contest in terms of the new delimitation boundaries, so that they don't get disqualified. I think it is now public knowledge that the presidential, in terms of the fees, the presidential aspirants are supposed to fork out $20,000 and $1,000 for the National Assembly and $200 for the party list. You may want also to be aware that those who are aspiring to contest in the council elections, they do not pay any fee. These fees, of course, they can be paid also in the local currency in terms of the prevailing rate on that day. Let me talk a bit about the office bearers, list of office bearers for the nomination. Political parties that intend to field candidates in the 2023 harmonized the general elections were notified in terms of Section 38A of the Electoral Act, Chapter 213, to expeditiously provide the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission with 1, the names of at least 3 national office bearers of the party through the head office of the commission here, and 2 of whom will be authorized to make any counter signatures required to be made for the purpose of Part 11A and subsection 46 in any province in which the political party is contesting the election That is to say, any signature required in connection with the senatorial party list candidate, the National Assembly constituency and party list candidates, and the provincial council party lists. Secondly, the names of at least 3 provincial office bearers of the party to provincial elections officers across our 10 provinces, and any 2 of whom will be authorized to make counter-signature required to be made for the purposes of Section 46 for the nomination of candidates for elections as councillors in the ward in that particular province. I would also want to mention that in terms of Section 38A, subsection 4 of the Electoral Act, a political party that provides the names of office bearers in accordance with the section will have the privilege of being entitled to nominate substitute candidates to any candidates who have died or withdrawn before polling day in accordance with Section 50A of the Act. And second point, to appoint roving party election candidates in accordance with Section 98A of the Act. We have and we are advising political parties to download the designated party office bearers forms from the Commission's website that I've given above, or collect these from the ZEC offices. The closing day for the submission was 19 June, and this means that those who did not do so will have to submit their signatures on nomination day, which is tomorrow. As the Commission prepares for these elections, there are committees that are statutory that must be in place. And first of those committees to be established was the National Multi-Party Liaison Committee in terms of Section 160B of the Electoral Act. You may be aware that this is the committee which acts as a mechanism to resolve electoral disputes through consensus before they are taken to the courts. This committee is now in place, constituted in terms of the law. The other committee already constituted by ZEC is the Observers Accreditation and the Media, and also the Media Monitoring Committee in terms of Section 40H and 160K of the Electoral Act respectively. In terms of the accreditation of observers, ladies and gentlemen, the function of this committee includes the recommendation to ZEC, the accreditation of observers. These could be individuals representing foreign countries or international organizations and foreign eminent persons who have applied to be accepted as observers. Local organizations from within Zimbabwe, individuals representing bodies that exercise functions similar to those of the Commission and that have been invited by the Commission to observe an election, individuals representing foreign countries or international organizations and foreign eminent persons who have been invited by the Minister responsible for foreign affairs to observe the election, and individuals representing local organizations and eminent persons from within Zimbabwe who have been invited to observe the elections. These observers pay an accreditation fee. Local observers, $10 US. Observers from the continent of Africa, $100 US. Observers from foreign embassies in Zimbabwe, $300 US. And observers from any country outside Zimbabwe, $400 US. In terms of the Zimbabwe media practitioners accredited with the Zimbabwe Media Commission and working in Zimbabwe for foreign media houses, the fee is $100 US. For the Zimbabwe local media practitioners accredited with the Zimbabwe Media Commission the fee is $10. Media practitioners from the continent of Africa, the fee is $100 US. You may be aware that the Media Monitoring Committee comprises of the chairperson of the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission, the Broadcasting Authority of Zimbabwe, and the Zimbabwe Media Commission. And it monitors the media's compliance to electoral laws during the election period in which we now are. In this regard, ladies and gentlemen, the media is reminded to observe Section 160G to 160J of the Electoral Act, which, among other provisions, compel the media to treat political parties equitably during the electioneering period. The public broadcaster and other electronic media houses intending to broadcast campaign messages are requested to furnish the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission with schedules for such broadcasts soon after the sitting of the nomination courts, which is tomorrow. Ladies and gentlemen, that will enable the Media Commission Committee to monitor compliance of the media to the electoral laws. Private media houses are also reminded that they are not compelled to broadcast or publish electioneering messages, but once they decide to do so, the law obligates them to treat all political parties equitably. In conduct of the media, let me talk a bit about that. The Commission also would like to remind the media to also abide by the provisions of Statutory Instrument 33 of 2008, being the media regulations that guide its daily operations with regards to covering elections. The media must desist from fomenting electoral violence and disputes because of sensational and inaccurate reportage. Hate speech and slander must be nipped in the bud right from the onset of the campaign period right up to the aftermath of the poll. So we are asking all of us, including the media, to be responsible. Let me talk a bit about the Constitutional Amendment 2 of 2021 and other electoral provisions. That amendment brought in the women's quota for local authority elections, and the Electoral Commission would like to draw the public's attention to the Constitutional Amendment number 2 of 2021, which, among other provisions, provides that a political party contesting the local authority elections must submit a nomination paper containing the names of women as party list candidates nominated by such party for every local authority in which it intends to field two or more non-party list candidates for direct election as councillors. Each candidate must be a woman who is eligible to be elected in terms of Section 119, subsection 2 of the Electoral Act, Chapter 213, for election as a councillor. The party list for the local authority must have at least 30% of the total members of the local council or the local authority concerned, of all whom must be women aged 21 years and above. The list must be lodged with the district elections officer for the local authority, to which it relays on any day before nomination day, and if lodged on nomination day at the local authority offices which have been designated as nomination courts venues in terms of Proclamation 4 of 2023. You may want to know that the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission shall designate persons to be nomination officers to receive the local authority women party list nomination papers. I'll expand on that one later on. There is also the youth quota elections, and similarly, according to the Constitutional Amendment 2 of 2021, a political party contesting the National Assembly constituency elections may submit a party list for each province in which it is contesting, and the youth party list for each province must have only 2 candidates aged from between 21 and 35. One substantive and the other one alternative. Again, the list must be lodged with the provincial elections officer for the province to which it relates. The provincial elections officer will be the nomination officer for that province to receive all those who are aspiring to contest in the National Assembly. So, as an election management body, political parties, we are advising that it is in their interest to submit these lists to the provincial elections offices of the commission on any day starting from the 4th day after proclamation and ending 2 days before the sitting of the nomination court, so that the list could be checked in advance of the sitting of the nomination. We have been communicating this information and encouraging those who want to submit or to file their papers to do so early. Of course, with the advantage that if the papers need to be corrected, then they will be corrected in time. So it is in their advantage if they submit their nomination papers early. Allow me now to talk about the country's electoral system. The type of elections we have which are going to take place. We've got the presidential election, we've got the Senate, the Chiefs Council, then the Senate PWDs, the National Assembly, the Provincial and Metropolitan Council election, as well as local authorities. Let me explain this, to expand this a bit. The presidential election is elected in terms of the absolute majority. What it means is that whoever is to be declared the winner of a presidential election should have garnered more than 50% of the valid votes. If you garner 50% plus 1 vote, or 50% plus 1 vote upwards, that's the only time you can be declared a winner of the presidential election. I want to explain this one to make it clear, because the presidential election is different from the parliamentary election, the National Assembly election. National Assembly election, the council election, whoever gets more votes than the other is declared the winner. But for the presidential, you can get more votes than the other person. But if you have not got this threshold I'm explaining, you are not the winner. We are explaining this as an election management body because we think it is important for our people to understand the difference between an election to the president's office, to the office of president, and the election to other offices. The Senate is proportional representation with 60 seats. By the way, the presidential election is 1 seat, not 2 presidents, 1. The Chiefs Council, we are talking of 18 collegial. The Senate PWDs, 2. National Assembly, first past disposed, that I said is different from the election of the president, 210 seats. Then we've got also in that type of election, the PR or the proportional representation system for the women's quota, which is 60, and the youth quota, which is 10. This is the youth quota that I talked about, which is brought about by the Amendment 2 of the Constitution of 2021. Then we have also the Provincial and Metropolitan Council, which has got 10 seats per province, and also then the local authorities, which the local authorities, I'm talking about what I would say the ordinary councillors, all right, who are elected in terms of the first past the post. Whoever gets more votes, that person wins the election. And there are 1,970 wards. In other words, means that category of councillors, we are talking of 1,970 wards. But the section that I've referred to, the amendment to the Constitution that I've referred to, Amendment number 2 of 2021, now brings in the 30% women to the local authorities, and that 30% per local authority, which will then add to the 1,970. Okay. So, the public is also hereby notified for general information that for the purposes of election of the women's quota in local authorities, the Commission has calculated the 30% of the total members of each local council, the number of seats reserved for women in all the, by the way, we've got 92 local authorities. So if you calculate that number, it will give you a number of 602. I will not go to the breakdown, but we will provide information on the detailed breakdown of the 30% local authority quota for women, province by province, local authority by local authority. Right. Ladies and gentlemen, let me now talk about the current activities that the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission is undertaking. I've mentioned that the nomination courts sits across the country in the 103 nomination court venues across the country tomorrow. We are happy to announce that the preparations we are set for this election tomorrow. The voters' roll for the nomination court is ready and is now at the various court centers, and there will be a search facility to check the nominees and nominators on the voters' roll. We are talking about the search facility because the nominators that would be submitted by those who are contesting, we need to check whether they are indeed in the voters' roll for that local authority or for that constituency in which the aspiring candidate wishes to stand. I talked about the accreditation committee. We are pleased to say that to announce that the accreditation for observers is now open. I think we made a publication on that of the venues. This notice was published in the media recently, giving the details of this important activity for the harmonized elections. The accreditation period will end on the 18th of August, which is 4 days before the polling day. As already said, nomination court is tomorrow, 21 June, and 22 June will be a day reserved for inspection of the nomination papers by anyone who wants to do so. The ZEC provinces, in this case, will then submit the nomination papers at head office on the next day after 22 June, which is 23 June. I've already mentioned that we advise those vying for these posts to make sure that they are registered in the correct wards, correct constituencies. Our election also includes the postal vote. It means after the nomination of candidates, the postal vote process will start, and it will be conducted in terms of Section 7(1) to 80 of the Electoral Act. The Electoral College elections, this refers to the elections of the traditional chiefs, which will be conducted. The first batch of that on the 3rd of August, then 10th of August, and 24th of August. Then the election for people with disabilities will be conducted on the 26th of August, 2023. If I were to conclude by looking at the summary of milestones on the electoral roadmap, we are going to share with you the electoral calendar, which shows what activities are supposed to take place on what day or between what dates. Just to summarize, but we are going to give you a copy. You are aware that the proclamation was done on the 31st of May 2023, and soon there was the establishment of the statutory committees that I talked about earlier on. Then the production of the roll, final roll for the purposes of the sitting of the nomination courts. The sitting of the nomination courts tomorrow. Then soon after the sitting of the nomination courts, when we now know who is contesting, we will establish the multi-party liaison committees that I explained earlier on. We will then publicize the nominated candidates by 30 June, and the publications of the polling stations, all polling stations, will be made public 21 days before polling day, and also another publication of all the polling stations on the day of polling. The election of the Council of Chiefs, I've already spoken about that one on the 3rd of August. The election of the President and Deputy President of the Chiefs Council on 10 August. Then we have polling day on the 23 August 2023 for the harmonized elections. Then we'll have 2 more elections after that, which is the election of the 2 senator chiefs on the 24th of August. Then the last election will be on the PWDs, people with disabilities representatives, on the 26th of August. The first question had to do with whether we're going to give candidates free of charge copies of the voters' roll. Yes, successful candidates are going to get copies of the voters' roll. And to the supplement question, yes, they will get them electronically. The second question had to do with how many candidates have so far submitted. We cannot have a figure now because remember they are submitting at the districts, that they are submitting at all the 103 venues. So it will be difficult to determine whether how many have submitted so far. But we can tell you that yes, they are submitting, but we don't have a specific number since they are submitting from different venues. Then the other question, whether those who have they've rectified, those who could not get their names, if they were their names rectified, or rather their details rectified. Yes, I think I answered that question in my presentation where I said the purpose of the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission to lay out the voters' roll to public is for the public to identify any anomalies, right? And then those anomalies then are rectified by VRA 1B, which I talked about it. That is a form that is used to correct those anomalies. Yes, indeed, those anomalies were rectified. The question whether they can check that their details are now correct. We want to advise that the facility that I spoke about, the statute 65 hashtag, will still be open right up to the election day. So indeed, they will be able to check their names.
Okay. For somebody to have filed their papers, they should have presented them to the nomination court officer. And like the CEO has said, that they are sitting at the nomination, they are getting papers from the respective candidates. So I'm not in a position to advise whether the two prospective presidential candidates have filed their papers or not as we sit here, unless and until I've got what they've received today.
Okay. If I can supplement the answer, which is very correct. Look, you can file papers well before the nomination court sits, right? And then there's a process to confirm whether indeed your papers you qualify, right? So we can only then authoritatively and officially say so and so is a candidate for the presidential election once the nomination court has closed and processed and made those announcements. I hope it is clear. Firstly, I'm not a commissioner. I'm a chief elections officer. Look, the Constitution of Zimbabwe allows everyone who is resident in Zimbabwe the right to vote. The members of the security forces will be allowed to vote. Those who are because of duty, including those members who are out of the country because on state duties, like in the embassies, those are the ones that are eligible for the postal vote that I spoke about. Let me explain a bit about the postal vote. The postal vote, as the word says, post. It means a ballot paper will be posted to you as an individual. Then you vote as an individual, secretly. Then you bring the by post back to ZEC, so that ZEC will then take it to a polling station where you are registered. Remember, our election is polling station based. So those members, security forces, who are not at their areas of residence, or rather where they are, because of duty, they don't find themselves on the polling day in the polling station area where they are registered, they will be eligible for the postal vote. And indeed, that process will take place.
As for the polling stations that we will use, I would say roughly we are looking at 12,000 polling stations. Why am I saying roughly? Because we have composite polling stations where we might be having more than 1,000 voters. In such cases, we have to split those polling stations so that we are able to manage the number of the registered voters so that they're able to vote within a day. So that's why I'm saying roughly, because we are looking at all those polling stations where we have more than 1,000 voters, so that we are then able to see which ones we need to split into A and B to manage the number of voters that we need to process within a day. The number of registered voters, we have 6,598,000 5,908 908 523 6598 523.
Yeah,
6598 523. Those are the registered voters that we have.
With regards to the budget, our initial budget was around 102 billion. As to is it adequate? What I can say proactively, most of the needs we have procured them on time. So in terms of the key electoral materials, we've since gathered them and procured them. But you also appreciate that mid-year, the MDA is allowed to submit, revise their budget, take into consideration the inflationary issues, which we have since did a ZEC. But what I can say is that we are receiving maximum support from Treasury. As of today, all our needs, they've catered them. We have received support from Treasury for all the needs we want during this time. Thank you.